Hi everyone, my name is Mandy Berger. This is my Module 3 special education interviews where we had to interview 3 staff members, a building principal, a special educator, and a paraprofessional. So for my building principal, let me give you a little background. I picked a principal at a alternative learning center. I just, they focus primarily on kids with IEPs, behavior, and learning disabilities. So I thought that was a different viewpoint, which was needed. And then I picked a special education teacher. She actually teaches out of the state, and she works at a district where they don't do inclusion, that all their help is done pull out in the resource room. So that's definitely a different viewpoint than what I'm used to. And then I picked a paraprofessional that actually works in my district. She's awesome. She has been there for almost 20 years, so she has seen a wide range of stuff in the education field. So I thought her viewpoint is a good one to have. Let's start with question 1. Procedures used. First off, the building principal, they use intake meetings, MTSS, which you can see the SPED teacher also uses MTSS. They also go off of behavior reports, how many offenses kids have, referrals, and so forth. And then they use Boys Town, and they rely on that heavily. They follow it. They believe in it 100%. So that was definitely different than the other two. My special education teacher and my paraprofessional, as you can tell, they both have experience with DIBELS, the fluency words, star reading. So some similarities and a little differences there. Question 2, what do they find the most challenging? For the building principal, hers was just the behavior issues, that having to have consequences for those kids and them losing privileges and being consistent and sticking with it. She's like, the biggest thing is just, I've got to remember that it's just their behavior, that it's not personal, and that thick skin is really important in her job. The special ed teacher, her most challenging part is working in a district where they don't believe in inclusion, that they want them kids pulled out and don't think it's in their best interest to stay in the regular ed classroom. And she strongly disagrees. She doesn't understand how these kids are making connections and how trust can be made, and working on those social skills, not only with their teacher, but with their peers, that they're missing out. And the paraprofessional, over the last few years, she has noticed a huge spike in parental disengagement, that parents just aren't involved, or that parents aren't equipped to advocate for their kids, that they just don't know what they need to do. What is the most rewarding part? The building principal, she talked about just how when her students are truly remorseful and realize what they did was wrong, or how they finally start catching on those strategies that they've been taught for their behavior problems. And lastly, when those students finally transition back into the regular education district buildings and are truly successful and move on. The SPED teacher and the paraprofessional were basically the same answers. They just like to watch kids grow, even when it's the smallest amounts. They both talked about how when working with a kid and trying to get them to see or understand, and finally that little light bulb comes on in their brain and they just go to work. They get it. They understand it. That's what they love to see. What advice do they have? The building principal, more training for her staff, so that way the staff can be consistent, that the paras and even the teachers realize that they're not there to hold hands and they're babying them too much. And, sometimes that they do more for them than they should, and they don't realize that it's harming them more than it's helping them. The SPED teacher and the paraprofessional both commented on more supervision and feedback. The SPED teacher, since she is in the school where there's no inclusion and everything done in the resource room, she just went on to talk about how she only had 2 observations this year, that there's just hardly any interaction. They're kind of in their own little world. And that even though she was given some feedback, it was all positive. Nothing was negative. She didn't feel like there was any constructive criticism, and that's what makes you better. So that's what she would recommend. 5, how do you work effectively with parents? The biggest one across the board was communication. Communication. For anyone to be successful, you have to be able to communicate and collaborate with others. You can see the building principal, they do daily notebooks that are sent home and have to be signed. They do telephone, verbal face-to-face, notes for communication. The SPED teacher, just, collaboration. Anytime you can pull those parents in so they can learn from themselves and the kids is a huge help. The paraprofessional, just giving those families opportunities to change that cycle, break the cycle, make them see that the program is different and is constantly improving. A lot of those parents could have been in the program themselves or have had other kids, and, bring them in, start seeing how good it is. How do they work with regular ed teachers? The building principal, during those transition times, they meet with a team with the regular district. They come up with a plan together. For the first week, an ALC teacher actually goes with the student, so they can help them kind of get back into the swing of a regular day-to-day, and you can see across the board, communication is key again, collaborating, and listing expectations. Sometimes we just assume people know what we want and we don't tell them. How are they going to know what to do if we don't give them our expectations? What advice do you have? The principals was realize students who are on an IEP don't always have to be in the resource room. Just because they're IEP, there's no reason why some of those kids cannot be still in the regular classroom. Be supportive, offer feedback. Once again, don't be afraid to offer that criticism. How would you describe the role of the teacher and the building principal? The building principal response was that principal needs to oversee as much as possible. Observe, give feedback, talk. When they're not around, have a lead teacher, ready so they know what to do so they can step in and de-escalate the situation. The SPED teacher went on to talk about how both of them are very important for any program to run smoothly. Make observations, and that the SPED teacher wants to be treated like a regular ed teacher. It's all about working together and collaboration, communication. I like that the paraprofessional touched on keep your goals clear and simple, make them attainable. Not only the principal's goals, but also the teacher's goals. That, kids need to realize they can obtain those goals to become successful. 9, what characteristics do they seek in new administration? The principal, she wants to see staff and new administration that are in it for the kids, the long haul, that they understand behaviors will happen and that those behaviors don't define who that student is, that the student's more than that. The special education teacher wants the Aspire administration to realize inclusion is important, that kids need to be with their peers, that, they don't believe in strictly just pull out, that they want those kids to interact with others. She also wants to see administration that wants to build on the school culture to make a positive, fun learning experience for everyone, and that community is important and useful, and to pull those people in. The paraprofessionals to be a stable figure, that a lot of these kids, the school is for them is their stable life, to work on those soft skills if they have to sit down and read a book, to play a game, shoot hoops, and lastly, be seen. Be part of the school, take an active role. That's, as you can see, there's lots of things that are the same and lots of things that were different. I picked 3 different people from 3 different backgrounds and was amazed by what they had to say. And I truly did enjoy this module. I hope you enjoy.